So everybody can see my screen, right? That says Concur overview.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Um, so we're just gonna briefly go over the Concur overview, how to submit invoices, how to um, add in new vendors if needed, and also um, how to review what have to get the updates, payment updates on the invoices that you have submitted. So I'm just gonna there on those on the PowerPoint. There's screenshots. I'm gonna go over the PowerPoint real quick, and then I'm gonna show you how it works in the real website. So going into that, so the first one is so when you come in the website, once you log in, you'll see an invoice tab on the top that's highlighted in blue on the top there. So once you come in, you do create new request, and once you do that, they will ask you to choose a vendor. Um, so the vendor, what we have done is we have put in all the active vendors that we have paid in the last 2 years in the system rather than putting everything. So if you have not submitted payment for the last 2 years, or something like that, then um, you would have to re-request um, a new vendor with their W-9 in it. So you would put the vendor information, at least the name, and here I chose Islamic Circle because we have various Islamic circles, the ICNAs with different branches. So I put it in there where it says begins with, put it in Islamic Circle, and then do the magnifying glass to search. And this is the information that produced. These are the stuff that's in the system. So if you have an ICNA for, I don't know, um, Virginia, then you have to request a new vendor. So to request a new vendor, you'll just click on the button that says request new vendor. Once you click on it, that gives you a new window that looks like this. Here you would fill out the information that's in red. Those are the required. So you'd need the vendor name, if possible, if you have the information for addresses, address one to the city, the state, zip code, um, and the currency is always US dollars. It's a required field. I don't know why it's not defaulted, but you have to choose it from a drop down of, I think, 5 or 6 different currencies. If you have the contact information for a person there, you can insert that as well. And on the tax ID, if you have their tax information, you can put it or you can skip it. That's okay. On the company, you would choose GR depending on what branch you are working for. For Carla, it'll be GR Exec versus for Sarah, it'll be GRH because you represent Guidance Realty Home Companies versus for Moti, it'll be, I think, GR Mid Atlantic or something like that. So you'd put in there, and the cost center is usually defaulted to a certain people. Like for Guidance Realty Homes, it'll be for New Sarah, it'll be VA 2001 versus Moti, it'll be 250 for Mid Atlantic, and for Carla, it'll be 105 for legal. So once you have all that information, you can push OK on the bottom, and then you go to the next page, which will look like that. So here you'll put in the invoice information. So here I chose ICNA for Massachusetts. This sample invoices for sponsorship program. I put in the request name as that, and also to give a little bit more detail on what that invoice is for, you can put in a little bit more detail if you want to. Here, though you put in the invoice number, the invoice date. Now, the payment terms is usually 30 days. That's what it's defaulted to. Now, if you have any invoices that's due before the 30 days are up, then you probably want to you should leave a note in the comment section and say, hey, please pay this by date XYZ, whatever it is. But let's say today is 10:30 and want to be paid by 11/2. You can leave that in the comments so I can see it, and we'll use that logic. What we recommend is submit an invoice before it is due rather than being due 5 days out because the concurs process usually takes a little bit more than 5 days, um, whether it's a payment by a check or by an ACH. So if you have a little bit leeway, might as well send it now. And if the due date is further out in the future, um, we can pay it so that the person will receive it by the due date. So if you have an invoice that's due in December, you can submit it now and not wait till the end of November. And you can change the due date to with the terms. It's 30 days, so it's gonna point it out to like 11:30 from today, and then the payment will Concur will put in the payment and process 5 days before the due date, so you have time to get in the mail and so on and so forth. Um, so after that, you'll put in the invoice amount, and after this, there's a button down here that says save. Once you save it, it'll take you to another field, another screen that looks like this, and here you would allocate, choose the expense type. This has a lot of information, a lot of different expense types you can pick and choose. And if you don't know what the expense type is, you can choose the undefined or unknown if you don't know. Then you would choose the or fill out the line description, which is this blank field here. I usually copy and paste the description from the invoice page and put it in here. And then you would put the quantity is usually one and the whatever the unit price is. So it multiplies and comes to the total. Once you have this information, you can save it. Or sometimes you may have multiple lines on an invoice, once for one thing, and next one would could be for something else. Let's say you let's say you went to Staples and you bought some supplies and you also printed some flyers. So the flyer printing could be, print printing, and the supplies could be supplies, kind of thing. Similar idea. Um, Once we have all that information, then we will upload the invoice. That's under actions. Then you do upload. You'll have your assuming that you'll have the invoice saved somewhere in your computer. You'd browse and upload, and that saves the invoice to the invoice image to the invoice. Without the invoice image, you won't be able to submit. So you have to have an invoice attached to your invoice image attached to your invoice. And so once you submit it, once you hit the submit button, the invoice goes for an approval from your manager or your regional manager. Um, and then that person will have 2 days to approve. If the invoice is not approved within the 2 business days, you have to recall and resubmit. Um,
Hmm.
and I'm gonna show it to you how to do that once we get to that point in the live session. And once this at this point, normally your work is done. Then you'll move on to do other stuff. The regional manager or whoever your manager will review it, approve it, and then that invoice will come to our queue. We review it, we make sure everything is correct, and we submit it for payment. And once it goes to the payment queue, it's usually we can't undo it. Once it's there, it's kind of set in stone. So you want to make sure all the information that you have submitted are correct. Um, Once it goes through the payment process, um, like I said earlier, it's 5 days before the due date. Either a check or if you have a wire information, an ACH would go out to the vendor, and that's the end of that. And so let's say a couple of weeks down the road, a vendor calls you and say, "Hey, where's my check for this? I don't know. I requested from you for like 2 weeks ago, and we haven't received it yet." So rather than emailing us and say, "Hey, where's this payment?" and then we go through it, you can actually go in here under Manage Request, and then you can see what payment status is. Here, this is a screenshot of the last one I did this last week. Um, so I have two paid invoices and two pending payments. So this is 8:30. This is obviously old information. Um, so here you can see it'll have different payment statuses. It'll say paid or pending payment or being reviewed or it's not approved yet, so on and so forth. It has different approval statuses and in payment statuses, and you can sort it by clicking on the blue buttons here, or you can filter it by using the search and the filter buttons here. Um, so you can, if you know the top first few letters of the vendor, rather than going through the whole list, you can just click and choose and see what's going on with that particular vendor.
Will it only
Um,
review what we see, Ben, what we put in?
I'm sorry, what's the question?
Will we only be able to see what we've put in?
Correct. So
Okay.
this will be only your whatever you have requested,
Okay.
your request. So you won't be able to see what somebody else did. Mine
Okay.
is a little bit bigger because I'm a processor and I see everything. So
Right.
like I have an admin rights. So this is pretty much a basic. It's fairly simple. Um, there's not we haven't had a lot of issues with it, except for user errors because I do that a lot. uh, so that there's a little problem with that. But other than that, it's fairly simple and straightforward. This process. I Some of the things that I could think of when I was doing this are like I said earlier, you want to submit invoices before they're due because the payment process takes 5 business days. Um, and if you have a recurring vendor, if you have, let's say, I don't know, a cleaning service in the Sterling office, so rather than coming here putting this information in every time, you can ask them to send an email directly to that giant long email address, guidance residential invoice capture at concurrsolutions.com, and you don't have to fill out the information. So they have an OCR, optical capture recognition, something like that, optical character recognition software in place. So when you send that information to that, send your email, send your invoice to that um, email address, Concur will be able to pull all the pertinent information from the invoice and put it in your first screen that we looked at, where we put in the vendor name, the invoice number, invoice date, etc. You can pull that information and do it for you. But that process takes 48 hours. So if you submit it today, you'll get it back by Wednesday, sometime Wednesday. So there is that either time constraints too. But if you are in a rush and things are need to be due, you can do it the entering it manually, or you can do that whatever works for you. If you are refunding a customer, this is only for guidance residential, not for guidance realty homes. So for residentials, if you are refunding a customer, include a contract number so we know what it applies to and where it should go. Um, Again, if there's a new vendor, then you need to submit a W-9 with the invoice, probably easier rather than, waiting a couple days. Otherwise, the invoice won't be processed without that. So that's that. Next one says questions, and we'll get back to questions after this is done. Let me show you the live what it looks like. Give me 1 second. Okay, share screen. Okay, so now we can do this. So let me go ahead and show this from the beginning. So to create a new vendor, I mean, create a new request, you'd go to invoice and then create new request. You would type in a vendor here. We'll just choose the same one, which was Islamic, uh, without a typo, Islamic Circle. And then search. Then we get five, all five, four vendors that we have with the similar name. So let's say we want to pay Massachusetts. So when you click on that, it automatically takes you um, to enter the invoice details. Let's say if this is not the one that you need and you want to create a completely new vendor, we can say um, search it. Oh no, So if it's a new vendor, you click on the new vendor. I forgot names. And say Islamic Circle of, I don't know, Reston. So I'm just gonna put in random stuff. Main Street, Reston, Virginia, 20190. States currency is US dollars. Contact name is Moti. And then the phone number 703-555-1212. And if you have a tax ID, you can put it in or not. Company, like I said, depending on who you are, it'll change, and you may not have all these choices to begin with. Um, so let's just choose for exec for now, and then cost center. Let's say this is for Carla, and we're gonna choose legal, which is 105, and we can leave everything else blank because the only two things that's required are the ones with the red on it. Those are required fields. The rest are optional. But you want to put as much information as possible here. Um, so here you say OK, and then you'll come back to the enter the invoice screen, invoice details anyways. If you notice that here it'll say unapproved because this vendor is not an approved one. To get it approved, you would submit a W-9 with the invoice. And on my side, I have to verify this with the IRS website to make sure that it's valid and their information that they provided is correct. And once we have that, then this changes into approved, I believe. Hey, Ali, I think AK is in. So here you would put in the request name, and this is for, I don't know, sponsorship, we'll call it. Sponsorship of event sponsorship. And you can say, I don't know, Eid al-Fitr sponsorship. Invoice number. Date is, let's say, maybe it's a little bit old one because we're doing Eid. So it's August 1st. So maybe this is September 1st. So here it's defaulted to 30 days, and automatically the due date is 30 days plus the invoice date. So it changes to that. As I said earlier, you cannot change this. I can change it because I'm an admin, but you won't be able to. And if you need to be paid sooner, you probably leave a comment, say, please pay it by 11/4. Okay. And then here, the invoice date is amount is $300, and we're gonna put it to legal. And if you decide that, realize that, oh wait, legal is not my cost center. It should be um,
Compliance.
compliance. There you go. Bill it to them. Compliance is right here, and you can change it right here without having to go back. So once you have all the information on the top filled out as much as you can, you'll say save, and then you have to fill out the itemization, how you want to be itemized. So here, you can, because this was a sponsorship, there's a COI mask sponsorship. You can choose that, and you can say this was an event sponsorship, and it was. And notice here, it's the amount is up here as well, $300. So you want to make sure when you're done, this needs to say zero, otherwise you can't go forward again. Like there are checks and balances. So that the turn into zero because we used all of it here. And you say save, and that information will come zero. Now it will say it's this code is our accounting code for sponsorships. So that is attached to that expense type, and the distribution code is 106. Let's say you realize, oh, this is not where it should be. you can just click on it and come back to the screen again and change it to, oh, I don't know what this is for. I'm not just gonna choose unknown or undefined. We have both here, so you can choose either or. Let's say call it undefined and save it at that. So when I get to review it as a processor, I can go back and look at it, what this was for, and try to figure it out or give you a call or to email you or something. And after all this information is here, the last thing we do is we upload an invoice, upload image, and here you'll have to browse it to an image. Let's try this one. I don't know what this is. And once you say upload, you say close, and then here on a view image, you'll be able to see what you uploaded. Oh, there's a check request for a completely different thing. So let's call it this is an invoice, and you get to see it. You have your invoice, and you're ready to go from here. And so if after everything is inputted, you'll just hit submit. I'm not going to do that because it'll go to compliance department, then they'll have to reject it and all that stuff. So once you submit it, it'll go to the manager. The compliance department manager will review it, make sure that everything makes sense, and he or she will approve it, and it'll go through the whole slew of the process. So that's pretty much it. Um, oh yeah, other thing. So let's say we did all this stuff, and you want to look at the history of what you submitted last week, last month, whenever previously. So you can, from here, manage request, you can go to my requests, and it will show that I have 2 invoices that are not submitted. Or you can choose it to see all my requests or requests submitted this month so far. And it's going to give me, this has 92, 1 of 4, because we've been doing this for a while now, a couple months. So I have all this stuff, and here we can, like I said, sort it by the approval status. These are all approved. There are some that are being approved. They are pending cost subject approver. So they're being approved right now. There are some in finance review to make sure that payment is ready to go. Or approved means that it's ready to be paid. This is the final step. The finance, somebody is reviewing it. These are all not paid versus these are paid. Or you can want to also filter it through. You can filter it through here either by a vendor name or an invoice number. Vendor name, I find it easier. Let's say it's for, I don't know, Nicor gas, because that's on the top. You can just type Nicor search, and it gives me all the Nicor gases in the last, what does that say, a month. So we have 2 that's being processed, I mean approved, and 2 are already approved and paid. So that's pretty much it. And this information is it's customizable depending on what you want to look at. Where did I see that to change it? It's somewhere here that you can change the heading, or maybe you can. No, I'm sorry. On this page you can't. It's on the processor side. I can. So these are the information that you can get from here. That's all I have to show today. Do you guys have any questions?
Yes, I have a question. This is Modi. And
Hey.
This is what you just showed is if we are requesting to issue a check in somebody else's name. What about if I have paid some expenses from my pocket and requesting a reimbursement to myself? Would it be the same process?
No, for the expense report, there's a different process. This is strictly for paying a third party.
Okay.
And if you want, I can go offline, like one-on-one, to show you how it is to be done.
So do you, I mean, I'm new to the company. I haven't filed only one request so far. But do we use the same system for that too, or do we use this?
It's from the same company.
Okay.
It's under expenses versus invoice.
Okay.
Yep. I can show it to you.
No, I have used that last night. Actually, I did.
Yep.
So.
Yep.
Okay.
Hmm.
I just wanted to make sure that I did not do something wrong last night when I did that. So.
No. I think it's fine. I think I saw your expense report.
Oh, okay. And then another thing,
And then,
oh, I'm sorry. When you do expense report, we can file like multiple expense on one report, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Okay. Carla?
when, can you show us, like, what is the process then for when the manager has to approve it? Is it simple? Do they just go in and approve what we submitted?
Um, since I'm not a manager and I don't have the
Okay.
approval powers, so I can just tell you what it looks like. So for a
Okay.
manager, there'll be another tab here that says approvals, I believe.
Okay.
So under the approvals, once they click on it, they'll see these list of invoices like this,
Yes.
and so that person will go click on each one of them, like I'm doing now. Go well, different ones, and they can. It'll have a very similar screen. It'll have the information on the top and how it's allocated on the bottom.
Hmm.
You can click on the invoice, like the similar one, and that'll have an invoice image of what the invoice is for. Um, you know, it's a very
Okay.
similar thing. It just will be on under the approval tab. And
And
once
then are
they
the
have
checks
approved,
still submitted the same way? Like you still run the checks and all that?
we're trying to stop writing checks in house unless there isn't
Okay.
something urgent, something that needs to be done ASAP kind of thing.
So
But most of the
Concur will
time,
do all that?
yes, Concur is going to do
Okay.
everything.
So then
Yep.
that's all we have to do is input the info, upload the
Hmm.
invoice.
Right.
Okay.
And Carla, since you have a lot of legal bills that you receive, if
Mhm.
you can reach out to them and say and have them send all the invoices to that giant email address, um,
What
the
to the
guidance
what?
res. If you can have them send the invoices straight to this email address, then you don't have to input it yourself.
Oh,
You can have them say, "Hey, Mr. XYZ, we have this new system. Send a copy to this email address and send a copy to me so you can review it, right? As well as
right.
it'll go there and it'll take a couple of business days and then it'll spit out um, the this information. The Concur will pull that information and put it there so you don't have to type it in.
Okay.
So that might make it easier on you.
Cool. I might ask you
Yep.
about that again later. Okay.
Yep. Not a problem.
Okay,
Okay.
great. Thank
Any?
you.
You're welcome.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? No questions?
No questions.
Awesome. Well, thank you for coming in the call. And if you have any questions, you can always call me or email me, and I'll be glad to help you.
Okay, sounds
And
good.
for the reminder, I will send you the PowerPoint presentation that I showed you so you have something to look back to.
Great. Okay,
Great.
thank you,
All
Abin.
right. Thank
Thanks,
you.
Thank
All
You're
you.
righty.
Dean.
welcome.
Mhm.
Mm-hmm.
All right.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.